2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's do this again because the mic's fucked up. They're still going. So we're going to do a kind of lesson that's a little bit different than most times, but it's going to be the most whole and wholesome lesson. And it's going to tie everything that we've ever talked about and make a final style. So what we're going to talk about is Carlin mucculars. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, muccular. Carlin muccular, the Shed Tracks owner. He made a recent lesson, right? And his lesson was about one sticking that I had never really paid attention to. To me, it was an easy, dumb sticking that had no real use or purpose. And this was the silliest thing ever, because actually this is like the door to the house, you know? So we're gonna look at this and like how he says, it's not really about the sticking him, but me, it's going to like be and go deeper into every sticking and such. So the first thing that we're gonna talk about is why some cats have gospel chops that just pop. You know, like they pop and they're drawn out so clearly and nothing is off, and it just sounds better than when other guys are doing similar chops, but like there's something missing. And what his theory was that it was hi-hat barks. And when I heard this, I laughed. Okay, I was like, there's no way that's true. I do full of hi-hat barks, and you know, I don't sound full yet. So what's up with that, you know? And but I didn't write it off, right? I was just skeptical, but I stayed open, right? So I went to the kit and I started to try it out. And gosh and golly, he was right. Like instantly, it all like started to make sense how to really get that top pop. Right? Because some will say jazz drummers or death drummers are the best, but the truth is pop guys are the best. But we're talking about the high-end pop guys that chop out, but where all their chops match every single note in the song, every single instrument is accounted for somewhere, you know, within a system that's sensical and pop valid, right? Well, this sticking and this stuff really is how you're going to get to the next level and full. So what he was talking about was hi-hat barks, right? He was talking about that. Right? And applying that to this sticking, it's just a paradiddle. Right? But the paradiddle is the version with two accents and a soft diddle. Right? Already just doing that, we haven't done a bark, and we're starting to see Brian. We're starting to see the Bay Area cats. And that's something that I never really did. Right? Because I would always do the 5 version. Usually when I play 2 hits, I'm either going, you know, or and doing stuff, or I'm doing 5, you know, or 7s and so on. But rarely, no, I would never, trust me, I would never do this. And it sounds tight, right? It has a symmetry to it that works. But now we're gonna go back to what Carlin was saying, our boy, right? Our boy Carlin. And he was saying to put the hi-hat barks. So the first one was just an easy one, right? Right. And at first, you're gonna wanna care about your linear motion versus your horizontals. right? And because sometimes if you're having a problem, it's either your horizontal motions or your vertical motions, right? So what vertical means is that you're just playing straight, right? There's no weird nonsensical motions that don't make sense. And then the other one is going from surface to surface, right? It's not up and down, it's sideways. So it's, let's say you have trouble, you stay on the hi-hat, right? So the way that you would fix trying to get off of the hi-hat if you were having trouble is you wouldn't be focusing on your up and downs. You would be focusing on the movement, right? Right? So that was his first thing. Right? And that's cool, but it's just something to throw in and just to practice. Right? But where his stuff got interesting is in his turn around method. And you see this method used by Hayes and Mays, by Zach Gruz, which he almost only does this kind of stuff. And like all of the gospel guys, whether you go to Gerald Hayward or Calvin Rogers, rest in peace, or all of these cats, right? So what it is just that the snare is first and the kick is on the second. So instead of being, it's, see? So you're forced to do a turn around to get your kick back on one, especially at high speeds. So either you can hit it and do a pause to go back, or you do that before. I just displayed both. So that's cool, right? That's really cool. Now I just want to talk about how I would develop the foot to even do that at a high speed. So there's a group that I used to have in high school. And when I stopped playing so much, when my mom got sick before she suicided, I had this down, and then I couldn't play it anymore, and I didn't know why. But within a few seconds of practicing this, it came back. So slowly, the beat that we're going to practice is, I did it a few different rates there. It's all about lifting that foot, and now you're working on doubles, right? Instead of, so now you have a new phrase, right? That's pretty cool, right? So we, right? There's this full of different things that you can do. That one would be a hard one fast because obviously you have, and then, but if you practiced it slow, you can probably do it fast, right? So, what were we talking about? So that's what we were drinking, that water really threw things off, eh? Right, so with that beat, you're practicing a double, and then you're practicing your, right? And now it's on the other side of the up and down beat. So it's but this place. And then you have a see you have a and then there's a little pause. So you have that kind of triplet partial or group, not rate vibe. And then, obviously I wasn't doing that in high school, but now I run the triplet or the 30-second note threes with my left hand, depending on the speed of the beat that I'm playing. So now we can add this to our right? So now it gets crazy, right? It's starting to get busy. What other barks do like we have, right? Just the most basic is often the most hard, you know? There's lots of notes. Right? That's a good one that's underused. Not in betweens, but both. Right? And now we have something I saw Gavin Harrison do that I think Breed X has made like his trademark. I saw Gavin Harrison do this going back into the second verse or maybe the third verse of The Sound of Music by Porcupine Tree, and he has live clips of it. So he goes up. Right. So there is a kick. Right? So it's all three. Right? So now we have our lasers. Another cool one is that. But right, like off of a downbeat, or you could go. Yeah, that's my favorite one. I think really you're going, and then you'll. Yeah. You know, so that's a really good one. And what you're gonna start seeing is the more that you do these kind of hi-hat barks with a kick, the more that they become like the predominant resolution and unresolved phrases. They're gonna all be dictated by your barks. And whenever it feels weird, you're just gonna have to do a bark, and it's gonna be it's gonna make sense, you know. But what's happening with these barks is that they're much bolder, much thicker lines. You're gonna start drawing with much more like structured type of lines. So all of your softer lines are gonna be like the colors on the stronger lines, you know. And he is right, because watch, let's say that I'm soloing and I'm not really throwing in as much, you know. See, there's almost no bold lines there, because if a lot of my kicks are, or you know, like at fast speeds, that's not going to be a bold, thick line. You know, like that's not a thick line. The thick line, you know, like the thicker lines is that. So the more that you're gonna start doing this, the more that you're gonna see that your style is gonna pop, and it's gonna be full. It's gonna have like all types of thicknesses for what you're trying to represent, and all types of boldness, or you know, transparency versus opaqueness. You know, so when you're trying to draw a hard structure, it's gonna actually come off hard. It's not gonna just be hard inside your head, it's gonna be physically and sonically hard, you know? And that's where we really get into like being a showman and a pop star versus like an improvisational, cerebral, you know, kind of thing. So let's just test now. Let's just warm up. Let's talk about one thing before. I'm sorry. You guys know most of my lessons are talking. I want to talk about stuff and have you guys play it. You guys aren't deaf and you guys don't have handicaps and stuff. So you guys can really use this and make your lives better, right? So what we start doing now is now let's just start using all of our stickings. Because like I said, I might not be so used to that, right? But I'm sure as hell used to it. You know, but all of my complicated stickings, I'm very used to those. So I can start doing it with throwing that in, you know? And it changes. Like I'm gonna do like the 5 thing with no thing, and you're gonna see it's not going to sound like a fill. It's not going to sound like anything, and that's what I'm trying to have. So, see? It's kind of weak. Now let's do the same thing. See? So as you see, the main decider of the head bob becomes the strongest voice, which makes your style come off as stronger because the voice that you're using is stronger. You know, like this is basic stuff, but it's actually deep. You know, like when like you actually see it and know it, it becomes like, oh. And Zach Grooves is all about that, and all these Drew grooves, right? Like now you add the Drew groove. Forrest Rice, drum department, Drew lesson, right? Draws it out, it just becomes more clear. You know, like no matter what you do, it's more fun. It's not to say that we only solo, right? That's what makes our softer parts pop. Where it's not even what you're doing to them, it's in contrast, the softer part pops too, you know? So it becomes easier to play because instead of trying to have this non-stop pattern that just never stops, right? That is every sticking you can think of, right? It becomes about little pieces. You know, see, like you go off and then you go back, turn it around. And the easiest way to do that is with these paradiddles that are simple yet naturally have that inverting way, and not have to do complicated math to try and get the same type of sound, you know? Like, see, like it gets complicated because it's like, now I'm in 7, grouped in 9, like what's going on? As you can get that same kind of feel from just displacing, you know? And it's good to do both, you know? And then like you just start to clear up everything of what sounds good and what doesn't. Modern drumming style is all about that. And the more that you can mesh with that, the more modern you're going to sound. Like once you have the other tools, right? If like the only thing you can do is this, obviously you're not going to start doing that, but you're going to get to that way faster because you have known before, because it's way more pop validity, you know, just shines from that. See there, I should have went, right? It would have been stronger, and I thought of it, but my foot wasn't prepared. Didn't risk it, but the door was there. It was opening up. You know, like. just like, something about it keeps the ear busy while you can do cool stuff. Where if you're just doing cool stuff, but there's not that, it's like, you like can play busy and it not seem busy, you know? And you play less notes, it sounds more busy. Because the lines are thicker. The thicker the lines, it's gonna sound more busy, right? So like, something to really think about is like, when you're soloing, to really have your hi-hat barks be your resolution points and starting points and mid points and pin points and quotation points and exclamation points and question points. See, ask a question like, huh? What? What? Oh. Right? And that's his and that's like the way that I saw him do it in the video, which is genius too, because you're starting on a backbeat, so you're not really changing the first note. The first note is not what displaces, even if it is. You know, like it seems weird, but if you go 1, 2, all right. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I fucked it up. Like it's hard to keep it 1, 2, 3, 4, and like that. But if like you're going, it's going to be easier at first. Right? Because you're not having to like change rate. But that's why it's really good to practice it this other way. And keep in mind, I just started practicing this, just started trying to throw this into my flow and try to see where the stuff fits within songs, within the phrasing of songs, which is, you know, the harder part. You know, so yeah, it's just an important thing to be able to really be able to control time. So we actually have lots of bold lines. You know, like all of these are different bold lines. You know? And I think that like underdoing that while trying to play modern drumming, it's like shooting yourself in the foot, where no matter how many notes you play, no matter how in time you get, it's gonna be less saucy than more simple stuff. Like, because it's more solid, it has a solidity to it. That 5s and 7s don't quite have. Sure, they're solid. that's cool. That's a cool one. So I was just doing like a, right? You see the difference between no kick on the hi-hat splash and a kick is huge. So Zach grooves to like make weirdo space that makes no sense, or play and make a nest some kind of rate that makes no sense, but then leave like a weird pause, and then just like do a bunch of barking, you know? And I mean barking and your busy kick stuff. Busy kick stuff, if you want to get into that, it sounds dumb, but just start doing this. And then start trying to add 6s, 5s, you know, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, you know, and just start adding stuff. And the more that you get your kick going, like the more you're gonna be able to start putting doubles within those and stuff, and just creating crazy phrases. Like if you think of something like a 17. Right, it's gonna have like 7 or 8 hits, right? Because it's gonna be a. So going, you know, 1, 2. You know, like if like you want to play like big figures, you have to get used to playing like 5 kicks, 7 kicks, you know, like, because a big figure is gonna be broken down within your head as the big, you know, because that's the difference between playing big figures and small figures. You can play the same thing, but with smaller figures within your brain, then it's not just the same, but it's not going to flow the same. And once you really get it down, if you get a big figure down, it's gonna be like, you know, like Zach Hill, you're just gonna think one, and it's gonna be like 100 notes, you know, or 101 notes between each one, and it's gonna be so tight, you know, and that's cool too, you know, but that's more of a cerebral thing, right? Like, where like there's so many notes, but unless you can really play them, you're not gonna be able to hear them, you know, like. Some of the stuff that he does, I'm sure, is beyond most average listeners' ears, where they're not going to be like, oh yeah, he's playing a 19 tuplet. You know, they're just like, it plays fast. It sounds like wind and water, you know, because it's organic. It's not a bunch of chunks being built. It's just like raw life, uninterrupted, right? Which is what the zone is. So just think about that, guys. Like, with anything that you can, like our favorite stuff, right? Right? Sounds weak. See, like, it sounds like one of those studio guys. It just does. That's that Omar Karim, right? The Godfather. Sorry for stuttering. Omar, right? He would do stuff like that, and in his clinic it's the same. And it's like you really see, like, it seems like it's kicking and snare. But if you just do kick and snare, it doesn't sound like him. That's a useful one that no one uses because it's the hardest. My friend Nick Forrester was the master of this. So he would do all of that stuff, plus he would add both at the same time, and all three of those. So his options were splash, chick hi-hat, like this, like that. And then just playing stuff. So, like, that's why I say that no one is still where Nick was. Because he would play shit like Cleon and David Cola mixed together, like this fast jazz, but that's drum and bass, but like beyond what they were doing. Because he played all of Terry Bozzio's solo records, note for note, even if he didn't have a big drum set, like he would still do the amount of hits and the like he would adapt it professionally where it was still it, And he wouldn't even try to learn it. He was just, that's what happens when you learn that kind of stuff from a very young age of 1. That's what you become. And later in life, he tried to do anything to get away from being that, from being a drum god. It's a shame. But there's that. Another thing that Nick did that I want to talk about a bit is what I'll call squaring the circle. So when you talk about indie sleaze, right? Like the 90s, the 2001s, the Stills, the Killers, all these kind of bands that are like indie sleaze, they're like half model, half indie, half high fashion, and they're all smoke cigarettes, they're cocaine and dressing women's clothing, like all of these kind of guys, Well, stuff that sounds really, really good in kind of that style is what I'll call squaring the circle. So you're playing. See that? And you really want it to be square. So your hits are square, even if you're playing like a weirdo triplet partial, you want it to sound super square, mechanical and stuff. And it really works in pop. Because you're like, it sounds super powerful, especially when you start being like a fusion guy, but you're throwing in some of that stuff. It really like steps up the professionalism, where you're playing maybe a simple beat, but you're hitting you're squaring the circle of, and circling the square of all of the lyrics. Right, so like you're not just putting out to have fun. You're squaring that phrase, right? You're squaring it out. You're almost forcing it to sound more quantized than it naturally is. And I'm telling you that will work. It will sound good, and especially if you throw it in with all that bark stuff. So So I hope that you guys find that cool and you can use it and take it even farther, and just make your life better, man, through drumming. God bless you all.